Welcome again. Hopefully this is going to be better now and we can kind of go through. Like I said, I'm going to make it pretty much a general session on making videos. So you're just going to kind of get the ins and outs and things that I think are going to help you along with having kids make better videos as well as maybe yourself. Okay. And let's go ahead and get started. All right, and everybody can see my screen good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the first thing that I like to do is we start talking about video basics is you really need to define what is the purpose for that video. So you want to make sure that that either the student knows why they're making it or you know why you're going to make it. And who is that video going to go towards? So who's your intended audience? So those are kind of the two big things that I like to start with when we start to look at making videos. The planning aspect really does get into the thought process of making a storyboard. And whenever I have kids make videos, I give them storyboards to work off of. Now, a storyboard, see if I can pull that up, is nothing more than a set of boxes with them to be able to create some captions. And really, it's about getting the kids and yourself to kind of think about what is the transition that I want, what is the things that I want them to show. This one that I grabbed is just a PDF version that I found on the web, and you can either make your own or there's probably 50 of them out there that you could choose from. But it's just a nice way to kind of go ahead and lay out the groundwork for what the video is going to be. Outside of using storyboards, you do need to kind of think about some of the technology that you have available. So what are the camera options that you have? When I first started having kids make videos, my camera options were wide ranged and anything from low tech to high tech. So whether I was using a webcam that was built into a computer, a camera that was a dedicated video camera, or now you can just go into using their cell phones. Those are all different aspects that you want to start to think about when you're using those. The other thought process is how much sound are you going to be using when you're making those videos? So one of the things that I like to always consider is if I'm going to just be showing something and then I'm going to voice over, so you can create a voiceover over the top, or whether you're going to lay music over the top. Those are options of what you can do, and then you don't have to worry about what kind of a noise you might have. So if you've got traffic noise in the background, that can be taken out when you actually go ahead and do the voiceover. So you don't always have to worry about keeping the sound and the video together. Oops, hold on. So once we kind of get into through the planning aspect of making your videos, you really want to do something where we build out an image library. So then what you're really doing is you want to have everything imaginable that you're going to work with to edit into that video. Now, when you think about it in that sense, you don't necessarily have to record things in the order in which you envisioned it. So, like you created your storyboard and you maybe have that storyboard laid out of how the video is going to flow in your mind. But really, you can go ahead and get a video clip for the end before you get the video clip for the beginning. So you can kind of plan out from that storyboard what are the clips that I'm going to take and keep them in small enough pieces, because it'll make it easier when you go into the editing. So that's always a recommendation, is to get a bunch of small segments. Now, with that said, you can also think in terms of what are the different angles that you might want to be using. So in other words, take and film that same clip from maybe 3 different angles so that you can get, the best use of that. So you might want to get a close up, you might want to get something far away, you might want to have a medium shot. So think in terms of getting multiple shots for those different takes that you're going to potentially edit in. Um, Make sure that you don't just think in terms of video. Sometimes you want to build that library that has some still images as well, so you can have those still images. And remember that if you're doing any kind of a voiceover, you'll be able to talk over those still images. In fact, a lot of times the quickest, best video that you can do is built just with stills, where you're just going to thread those stills together and have a good voiceover of what you're going to talk about. So those are kind of the basics when you go into building that video library, and that's going to be the one thing that you're going to want to do. I think that, I just had a question pop up when it comes to like distance learning. You can have kids make videos for a project if you wanted to, and you could easily have them build that checkpoint in with those storyboards. So they could take a storyboard, plan out their video, what they're going to do, and then they'll be able to then map out a video that they're going to create for a project. And you just have to define the goal for them. So that's one of the things that we can do when we start to get into distance learning. The editing software is really where you're going to get into, what's going to work best for various situations. And you're going to find that some of this is going to be dependent upon your technology. Typically, what I like to do is I use whatever is the free editing software that's built into my machine. So I'm a Windows user. So there is a video editing software that's built in directly into Windows. If you go back a few years ago, it used to be called Movie Maker, Microsoft Movie Maker. Now it's just a portion of, I think in Windows 10, it's portion of the photos. And so you can get photo and video editing directly within that. If you're a Mac user, you're probably going to use the iMovie. iMovie is built in, again, feature. It's set up, ready to go, and it should be easy for you to use within there. So those are the two that I kind of would bounce between if I had to. There are a number of websites that have or downloadable software pieces that you could use that are free and on the web. I tend to, find the one that works best for you and stick with that. For me, like I said, it's going to be my video editing on a Windows machine because it's integrated well with the machine. I did provide 3 different links there in the session. And so I think I can go through. Chromebooks, you're probably going to want to have a online editor. So instead of it being a dedicated piece of software that you're going to download, you're probably going to want an online editor. I'm just going to open up the link here, the first one. This was the one for just straight from Wikipedia that talks about the various software pieces that you could use, as well as the platform that they run best on. And so you can kind of go through and pick ones and then go through the individual sites of what works. It's down to, and I have only checked out a couple of these because, again, all of them will look the same when you get into them. It's about what works best for your environment. So if, like I said, if you're a Mac user, you'd want to use an iMovie. If you're a PC or a Windows user, you might want to look into the one that's embedded already. So those are quick and easy. And then if you're, like I said, if you're looking at a Chromebook, you may want to play around with a couple of the online ones. So those are, let me just, I'll click open the other 2 here too. And so again, there are some articles out there that you go through and you can read the pros and cons to some of the various ones. So this was the 18 best ones. And this was the other one that was a video editing one. So again, a lot of those, they're free. They may have ads attached to them. They may require you to store your videos on their site. That would be the other option too. And then you get into the how do we manage all of those videos once we make them. So when we get into the actual editing portion of it, there's a few things that you're going to want to make sure you're following up with. You want to make sure that you're looking at that image library that you built. You're going to want to import that into your software. So that's the number one thing that you do is you just bring in and drag in all of your video clips and your still images. So you get that in there. Then you'll see some form of a storyboard or a timeline option in your software. So like in the picture that I have here, it looks just like I can just drag clips from my image library and put them down at that very bottom, and that'll just set up that image or create that storyboard for me. And so then once I get those clips of videos that I put in there, I can go through and do trimming. So you can actually clip them. You can actually shorten them. I can do a filter to them. So I could actually, put some kind of a special effect on it. I can rotate those. So one of the things that I'll have kids that'll struggle with, they'll use their phone to get video clips, and then their video clips are all either vertical or they're horizontal, and they need to rotate them, and they can do that within their editing software. You can also adjust the timing of those clips. So sometimes you might be, having them, they'll show something where they want to show a process, but that process is going to take, 15 minutes. Well, you could speed it up so that it's going faster so that you're not taking the entire time of that video. So those are all things that you can do. You can then also usually lay in an audio track at this point in time. So audio tracks are something that you can put in. You could record or add music directly in at this point. The key thing at the very end, and this is the one thing that a lot of my students have always struggled with, is when they're done doing their video editing, they get into that environment, whichever one works best for them. They piece all of those video clips together. The last thing they actually have to do is publish that video. And so that's usually the one thing that they forget to do. And they'll just share a file with me from whatever online editing software they were using. And I didn't have that software, so then I couldn't open up. There's always a processing thing at the very end. And what happens is all of these video editing softwares want to take all of your video clips, all of those effects, all of those things, and they need to kind of thread them together so that it actually will record as a video. And then you have a playable piece of a playable file that can be shared. So that's kind of the big thing at the very end, is finalizing your project and make sure that that happens. Okay. When we get into how do we present these, this is kind of the where do you go to house them? Now, one of the reasons why I use my internal video editing tools in my computer is because I want to house my videos on a service that I control more of. So that's why I use YouTube as my service provider. If I go with some of the online tools, I may end up having to store my videos on their server. And so then I'm constantly having to go into their server to kind of make adjustments to those things. Now, there are some good things and some not so good things about storing your videos in a place like YouTube. So one of the things you can always do is those videos can be set to either be public or private. So if you have a YouTube account or a YouTube channel, you can put a video in there and you can make it a private video. And I've done this with when I create a video for my parents of my son, I'll just send them the link to it, and they're the only ones that can see it. But if I want to make it a public one, that public link is accessed by anybody. So then you have to think about, what are you going to title that video? Because that becomes a searchable thing within that YouTube realm. The upside, to me, the biggest upside to using YouTube as a host for my videos is all the analytics that I get. So I can actually go in and I can see my entire account, how many views I have, what time of day they're watching it, when in that video did all of a sudden it drop off. And so there's a lot of statistical things that I can get by having my videos up in YouTube. I can also then create playlists. So like, say I'm making videos for my students, I can thread those videos together in a playlist. So I might take my first 3 lessons in a unit, and I'll take those 3 videos and put them all together so that they can watch them in like one playlist, and then just share the playlist with them. The downside is that you don't control the ads that go into it. Okay, so this is the thing that is kind of the not so good thing about using YouTube, is that you're always going to have ads that get placed onto it. You have to be careful about what music you might select. So like if you overlay a piece of music into it, if you use too much of it, the artist might actually get notified, and then they can actually shut down that video. So try to always find free sources of music. So be very careful on what you use there. But that's one of the things that you'll see is that the ad feature is not as good. I like it though when I post mine, and I was a flipped classroom teacher for several years. All my videos are posted on YouTube, and so I made them that way. Outside of using YouTube, if you are a Google type of a school, you can just upload all of your videos directly into your Google Drives, and those are shareable within your building. The nice thing is that you're now keeping ads out, so you won't have any ads to work with because they're all housed within your own school realm. The downside is that there's no tracking data on that, so you won't be able to go back and see how many students were watching your video. Now, even on the YouTube, I don't see specifically what student is watching it. I just get a general count. But like if I post a video and I say, you need to watch that video tonight, I can go back and I'll be able to see a spike in that video of, so many students have watched it. So I'll see, 30, 40 views all of a sudden pop up on one time. You do get a little bit more control in how you organize and who gets to see those videos, though, when you're on your own Google Drives. So you can set your parameters better to whether it's going to be public, whether it's going to be private, whether it's only somebody in your school that can see it, or whether you can give the link so that parents can see it. So those are all kind of things that go into, kind of the storing of it. I just had a question in the chat about using SafeTube. I've never actually used SafeTube. When I first started, I created my YouTube channel, and I just have always gone straight to that. So I've never tried that. And I also work with high school kids, so it's probably a little different. The one thing I'll do though, to kind of limit it is, like, say I want to use one of my videos and I want to keep it outside of the YouTube realm, I'll put it or embed it into a Google form. So I can actually take that video clip, put it into the Google form, so they can just watch the video there. They don't see any ads or anything around it, but then I can also then give them some questions to follow up with it. It's a little bit like creating your own Edpuzzle, if anyone is familiar with Edpuzzle. But Edpuzzle works kind of in that same, takes a YouTube video and allows you to pause it and ask questions. And I kind of try to do that if I'm going to be more particular with keeping kids away from the YouTube and just showing them the video instead. I'm not sure where YouTube is as far as it goes with how you can control the ads. If you if you get to the point to where you have enough subscribers and views, you probably can name what ads you get, and you're probably going to get monetized on top of it. But I'm nowhere near getting that level of views or that. So, but like I said, if you're really concerned about it, you can house the video on YouTube, and then you can take and use it in a different service. Something like a Google Form or Edpuzzle would be the way to kind of limit how much you see around the YouTube part. So hopefully I got a chance to give you a little bit of an idea. It's a general idea on video editing. Um, Again, it really does go back to the very beginning, where you need to know what the goal is of what you want that video to be. So what are you going to show? Why are you creating this video? And then making the plan of how you're going to show it. So I think it's important that if you get kids to make videos, you don't just say, go make a video. Have them actually do the storyboarding first. Because if they do that, it gives them some structure so that they'll produce a better video. And it's not just something like you see on TikTok. You Once they do that, if you start thinking in terms of like actually making film and building those image banks, those image libraries, that'll really help upgrade what you're going to see, and it'll give them more time or more things to work on when they get into the editing part of it. Now, I'm going to take some questions here as well, because I think we have a little bit of time left anyways. Edpuzzle, if you, hold on, if you go, got a lot of windows open here. Here we go. So Edpuzzle is a online service. They had it opened up quite a bit for teachers this spring. So you should be able to kind of go through. It is a paid service if you want to get all the bells and whistles, and it does integrate well with Google Classroom. So if you're actually using Google Classroom, it's a good source. But you can kind of see, I'm going to come back in here. So just to kind of give you an idea, I had it linked to my Google Classroom this spring. And so I was able to go into a class. So like, here's my physics class. And I made a quick little video for my students and then embedded some questions into it. So again, this video I created using my webcam and did it as a screen capture through Screencastify, or not Screencast-O-Matic. So like I said, you can think in terms of as simple as just grabbing your web browser or your webcam on your laptop, and then I just created a PowerPoint slide and did some drawing and talking, and then created the questions into it so my students could go through and answer them. And so that was using Edpuzzle as a kind of way to limit what the students could see. But that video was uploaded into YouTube so I could see the analytics on it still. Any other questions? Hold on. So, and let me try this here. So I'm just in my YouTube channel right now. I'm going to try to show this a little bit. So here's that ballistics pendulum video. And if I go to this, I can go to the analytics. So outside of using Edpuzzle as a way to guarantee that they were answering questions based on that, I can go through and look at, see, this is since published. So this is my engagement. Okay. I can go through and see where they were watching it. Okay. So these are some of the different YouTube analytics that we get a chance to see once a video is uploaded to there. And so if you want, I can see that, you know, these are how many views I had through that range. Play a sample of the, I guess, see if I can, I'm assuming from the Edpuzzle. So you do have to, Edpuzzle's one that you'll want to be able to do as a teacher. So you'll have to create up an account with them first. Like I said, I want to say there were some codes this spring that they allowed teachers to get in and do it for free, because they were trying to support as much of the distance learning. The outside of just doing that, we created, like I said, it was pretty easy to embed a videos directly into Google Forms. And so we were embedding videos into Google Forms as well as the Edpuzzle. And because we were a Google school, the kids could just use their straight Google account to link in. And like I said, if you have Classroom, Edpuzzle works well as well. My suggestion would be, when you get into your candy groups today or later today or tomorrow, I think all of the specialists have a lot of experience using Edpuzzle. So we can walk you through that as well to kind of show you. But it was one of those ones that once you get in, it's pretty self-explanatory to, once you have a teacher side account, to be able to walk through and embed a video. And like right now, for me, if I go into my, if I just go into YouTube, hold on. If I open a video up, it'll, oh, this is right now on my own. It usually has a button linked directly into YouTube so that it will show up as I can do an Edpuzzle directly from it. I need to get out of my channel though. I have limited experience with Schoology, because like I said, we're a Google school in Buffalo. And so all of our kids, we're not one-to-one, but all of our kids have Google accounts, and we use Google Classroom exclusively. I'm trying to think, Tony might be the specialist. So like if you want this afternoon, you can jump into Tony's one. I think he's a Schoology school, so he might have some better one on that. And I can maybe find that out as well. And we can maybe post that out to who has good experience with Schoology. Yeah, and I think that you can still use YouTube as your host site to kind of get your stuff. You just need to make sure that you can link and embed directly into Schoology. And it probably is very similar where it cuts out all the ads. How did I create my own channel? I just went to YouTube, and YouTube actually is directly connected to your Google account. So if you have a Google account, you should have a YouTube account, and then you can just go in there and update your channel. So that you can just see your channel, and you can customize it and put in banners and things. Any other questions? Just want to check our time here. Because I think we've got a few more minutes maybe. How many of you have experience with making videos already? Okay. Like I said, the one thing I did was years ago, back Purpose Center for the Arts did some teacher training ones and I took a course on media arts. And it really did kind of drive home the fact of you got to really plan and prepare to build a video. And always, if you think about this, if you want a kid to make a quality video that's going to be, say, 30 seconds to a minute long, they're probably going to record and spend, they're going to want to have like a half hour's worth of video time built in so that they can get enough footage to work with. And if you can keep them to still images, it's almost easier. If you, like I said, the quickest way to make a video is to take still images and then just voice over. Any sound recorder works well. I use Audacity as my sound recorder. It's just a quick way to just run my recording over, but some of them, it's built in directly into your video editing software where you can just click a button and you can just talk and record it. But like I said, sometimes I like to just use Audacity. I make my sound file and then I just drop my sound file in on top of it. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you for everyone that came in, and hopefully this helps. If you do have other questions when it comes to video type stuff, feel free to jump in during my office hours, any of the afternoons. I know that we as the specialists are trying to meet with each of our candy groups as well, but we're always open to having conversations with any of the participants during that time. So feel free to go and hit up any of the specialists and ask them questions on any of the things. Next on the agenda is, I believe that we are now to the point to where you're going to be meeting or working with your business partners. So you want to kind of reach out to do that, or you can jump in to meet with your specialists. And don't forget to get a little lunch in there too. And stretch your legs. Got to make sure that you get away from the screen for a little bit. So, but yeah, we are, double check. Yep, we're done here at 12:15 and have a break until 12:30, and then that's when you have like your time to kind of debrief a little bit, make sure that you get your lesson plans ready. So the Flipgrid is kind of a nice way to kind of get a threaded video of your students. So what I did with Flipgrid this year was I'd post a question and then have the students just respond to that question. So that's kind of the way that it was structured. This is different because I think that you're now making a video that you want to use maybe more than once. So like when I look at the videos that I make and produce and I post on my YouTube, these are ones that for my students, I'm going to use these over and over again. And so I want to be able to track a little bit about the usage and see what there are. From a chemistry or a science point of view, I did a lot of my chemistry demos where I was recording that demo so that the kids could see it, even if they weren't in a chemistry room. And so that's the way that I try to get them, or like take lab footage for them to do a lab with. So those are the ways that I would say this is a little different than say just putting it out on Flipgrid. And it looks like if you want to talk, you know, to a specialist that's a very good at Edpuzzle, you want to meet with Becky. So she's a good Edpuzzle resource as well. And there might be a session on Edpuzzle too. I'm not sure. I haven't looked that far in advance. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Well, I will stick on here until 12:15. If you want to jump out for a little bit, you can. If you want to ask questions, you can. But we are working on things this afternoon, and so it's all try to connect with your business partners and then connect with your Candy Group specialists. So thank you for coming.
Can you check and see where we could do our attendance for this session?
Let's
Did
see.
Jolly Ranchers tried to check it out and we couldn't find it?
If as far as it goes, I would say if you didn't see it,
Is it just the survey?
I would say fill in your survey and mark it. There might be a mark on your badging as well, but definitely just fill in the surveys.
Yeah, because we didn't get to check in for the first session for the welcome.
Yeah, and that's where I know that we're trying to make sure this is, hey, you need to always have a little grace with us. We're trying to set this up. This is all brand new to us too. So I know behind the scenes, they're trying to work on making sure that those attendance buttons are working as well. But there should be a session surveys. Let's see if I can go there. And then you'll see your keynote and your breakout session. So you should be able to click that. And I want to say that there's probably, you have to select which breakout session you were in.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any others? Okay.